Anyway, that day we met the link, just like that. Who would have thought it? But that was Broccoli, and we were on the corner of the Breakspears pub.
I can't do that, Dave. You still owe me for the last one. And now you want to tick another eighth? You're taking the piss.
Sorry, mate.
Stop taking the piss, Dave. Turning up here with no dough. It's bad for business. If I swish you, I'm going to do this for the last favour. But you do yourself a favour, yeah? Don't come around here with no money, or else, mate.
Yeah, sweet, mate.
So what you saying, next Tuesday? Hold that.
Cheers, mate. Cheers, mate.
Wagwan.
Wagwan. You man looking to get this thing sorted then?
Yeah, of course.
Lad, you're the big you on the block. You can have words with the elders if you know them.
That's for your little soldiers. Deal with that. Them lot are in good uns. Waiting for yous. I'm sure you'll figure out. It's a local problem. Ain't nothing serious, boomer.
Hey, yo, Biggs. What's good, man? Give me a shout.
That was Biggs. He always knew what was going down on the corner. I don't know how he done it, but he always knew. We stepped into Goulan's. The shop was busy. The smell of onion spices and charcoal fumigated our favourite local kebab shop. Over in the corner along the L-shaped counter on the shortest side, Goose, Hector and Fives were playing the arcade machine. They were dressed like civilians in normal garms. Jeans, jumpers, colourful tracksuits. None of that dirty black on black hoodie stuff. That was bait on top, as the olders would say. Camouflage fatigues or black on black with gloves and hoods was only for nighttime missions or bait daytime raids, because the Babylon would just pick us off dressed like that out in the open, and we didn't need them joking man down constantly. That was long, so we kept it no ID. Even that was not good enough to keep us safe from the law. Goose was pressing the buttons very hard and very rapidly while the others watched. They were laughing and mocking him as he entertained Hector and Fives. They were unimpressed, saying he was shit, total whack at the game, psyching him out, winding him up. Shinobi was a Ninja Warrior computer game that was doing its numbers on the street arcades and in people's homes on their computers during that year of 1988. It then went on to become a classic computer game before the rise of Street Fighter. Troy shouted out,
"You jokers!"
waving his hands, looking in the boy's direction. Fives turned around and said, What you on about? Fives was a short ute, so we called him Fives, as in 5 inches. Troy grinned. Then he spoke.
"You man supposed to be outside the pub waiting, not gaming. Fam, come like you think everything's a game out here, fam."
Goose replied, "Calm down, you man. Core, don't start arguing. I'm about to die on this game, fam. I'm almost done. We can go catch in the alleyway and bill a zoo and sort this out. Just give me 2 minutes, bro." A girl walked into the shop, just as Goose had basically finished ordering us to stop the banter. She was pretty. She had silky hair. You could see she was of mixed heritage. I was trying to guess her age. In my head, she was no more than 2 years older than me. The girl was buff. She had assets. And she was behaving like she couldn't see the man them in the shop. She ordered her chicken burger and chips with a drink and went and stood on the other side of the shop by the window. I wanted to talk to her properly, but I knew Troy and even Goose would be onto me and probably even try bust my throat too, mocking my move, scaring her away. They had done that a few times to me when making our patrols, mashing texts and looking for girls in Lewisham Shopping Centre. So I still needed to return the senders. They're not too funny jokes. You get me? You know better, I thought to myself, but I have to get her attention, even if it's some form of recognition from her. That would be cool. It would be a start. You get me? The man them were too busy watching Goose on the machine to even notice her. Jolting, I thought. A bonus for me though. So I stood by the shop's doorway and waited for all of them to leave the shop.
"Hey, chicken burger and chips, Len?"
Gulan shouted. The pretty thing walked over to him, paid and collected her snack. She turned and headed in my direction towards the main exit of the shop. I smiled at her and opened the door for her. "Pretty lady, enjoy your food," I said. She looked at me and smiled and said,
"I will. I always come here when I've got the munchies for chicken and chips."
"Yeah? Come on. So do I." But she had already walked off before I could finish spitting my darts. Halfway through my sentence, I could smell her hairspray or perfume or something. Smelt refreshing. Nice clean girl, I thought. Not no crusty skets. As I stared at her while she crossed the Pelican Crossing towards the Breakspear's Arms. Ah, said Troy. You're trying it, bandit, laughing and pointing at me, making half the shop turn around and look at us. I said, you prick. Come on, you man, let's bounce. I've got things to do before the day finishes. So what you saying, Fives? You were on your own on the 36 bus coming back from Lucian when they got on the bus? Yeah, Fives replied. Okay then, what happened? Bro, they sat next to me on the back seat of the bus, and in front of me, 4 of them. They weren't in school uniform, olders I think, 1 white fella, the rest were blackheads. They asked me for a fag. I said, nah, I ain't got that. They asked me where I was from. I said, local. Then some more questions. Do I know a man like Shortman or Brody or something like that? I said, nah. And one of them, the black boy, said, give me your Walkman and your watch. I said, what? Louder. I tried to get off the bus, and one of them, the light-skinned youth, blocked my departure. And basically it was on from there. They gave me a couple bangs. I tried to swing. They pulled out a dull and jacked me. Then they got off the bus. A big woman in the front of the bus heard the commotion. She was screaming, leave him alone, leave him alone. But it was too late. They already had my stuff. The youth almost broke my nose as well. I was hurt, fam. I stayed on the bus. The woman said that she recognized their face from Deptford. They loafed around the crypt, always making noise and that. I told her thanks and got off the bus. At the stop, you get me? Fives didn't look a bit embarrassed as he told us the story. He was destined to be a serious guy, I thought. London transport was a real nightmare in them days. There was no cameras on the buses back then. The reality was that you could get beat up, stabbed, robbed, or even worse on a London bus. Derek shouted out as he appeared at the far end of the alleyway behind Goulan's. As he began walking up to us, his brand new green and yellow Adidas torsion started glowing, and his Fila tracksuit top. He was rocking Pepe jeans. He was on some boss swag. His crepes were dope still. Adidas had made a comeback with those kicks.
Well, go on, you man. So you can't wait for man.
When Derek was in earshot of me, I asked him, did you get the Yardie's number?
Yes.
I said, cool, we got to find a link for the Indian. Derek replied,
Come on, standard.
He then joined the group conversation. Troy, Goose and Hector were looking at each other. You could tell Five's story was on repeat in their minds. Troy told Fives to bill a spliff.
So he told you what happened? He got robbed and tumped up by those punks. We need to catch one of them, if not all of them, and brat them up. No jokes, just beatings.
Troy said, I'm down with that. Goose said, me too. Hector followed. As usual, he had always been the follower of the group. Fives looked happy as he was skinning up. Him hearing Mandem assembling to avenge his loss and his violation was making him grin. I looked down at the ground for a minute. I could feel eyes on me. I looked up. Everyone was watching me, realizing I hadn't said anything. Then I addressed my comrades. I think we should find out a bit more about these brothers. It might help us win.
What? Find out where they live?
That's not a bad idea. Find out everything if we can. You done know.
Can get anything done. They got legislation and bill passed so fast that if a rapper start rapping about killing Asian men, you understand me, all of a sudden it becomes a hate record, right? If you rap about killing Jews, it's a hate record. You rap about killing gays, it's a hate record. If you rap about killing heterosexual black men, it's a hit record, right? So what lessons can we learn to where, or what are they teaching us about the dynamics of power that we need to learn as a community?
Blue Season 5 Radio Stories. Scene 2. Sean was sitting in the corner by the pool area facing the bar talking to Ninja. He said, the Breakspheres pub was always lively on a Friday evening. Ninja replied, well, you know why. Sean, it's payday and every roadman with something up his sleeve has got something to buy or sell like it's Christmas. Ninja started laughing.
Excuse me.
Surprised by the interruption, Sean switched his focus from Ninja to the female standing in front of them. Amazed by her beauty and shape, he could feel a sudden electric charge of desire immediately rush through his body but stayed calm under her gaze. Refusing to act like a savage. Thinking to himself, The blue was full of unfamiliar sexy women. Wow. Oh my days. This must be me.
Is there anyone sitting on this chair? Can I take it away to my table? Please.
It's yours. Go on, take it. You're gorgeous. Anything else I can do for you? Who are you here with? To be continued. Follow hashtag BLS5.
Some of you just come around. What you know about changing of the guards? Breaks my arms. Right there, but it was written in Psalms. How you get your P up, the re-up.
The American law enforcement caught on to the posses and things started pursuing a policy to take them out. Then they would increasingly come to Britain to get away from them.
It's a scene that's now become almost commonplace. Another shooting on the streets of London. Kennington on the 18th of July, and the most famous victim of the summer of violence is Radio 1 DJ Tim Westwood. His vehicle sprayed by gunfire as he waits at traffic lights. A snapshot of Britain in the summer of 1999. Handsworth, Birmingham. Michael Sr. is gunned down as he queues up outside a nightclub. Brixton, South London. Mervyn Sills is shot dead in front of at least 50 people. Lewisham, South London. Club promoter Andy Balfour is machine-gunned to death in the middle of the day on a busy street. There's a war raging on the streets of Britain, but most of the casualties barely make the local news, and the witnesses are too afraid to talk. Here in Dalston, North London, 7 people were mown down as 2 gunmen opened fire on each other at a nightclub.
Well, it would appear from witnesses that we have and the forensics that in the narrow passage leading to the toilet area, 2 men have met with other people around them, and both appear to have drawn guns and fired at each other, and unfortunately the majority of the victims have been caught in the crossfire or by ricochets and injured. And certainly in this case, from the injuries, we could have had 5 dead people.
But detectives investigating this latest Yardie-related shooting have come up against a wall of silence. Police only found out about this incident when hospital staff told them they had treated a number of people with bullet wounds.
By the time police arrived here, there was only the owner and a couple of staff members left. All the persons, and we think there would be between 80 and 90 people would have been in the basement area at the time, had all left.
Britain's most violent criminal gangsters arrived from the other side of the world.
The origins of them are in the ghettos of Kingston, capital of Jamaica. And really the development goes back to political violence there, certainly in the 70s and probably even back to the 60s, which culminated in what was virtually a civil war around the elections in 1980. And you had the bosses within these, who were party hacks of one sort or another, who would then arm up various, members of the willing youth. The theory is that, this is where they got a taste for guns. They could see what guns would do. After this, a lot of people got imprisoned in the gun court, as they call it. And when they got out, they came and took over the area and kind of chased a lot of the older heads out, so that you had this sort of youth-orientated, gun-toting folk. Some of them, in turn, were chased out because they were an embarrassment by the political masters. And I say they ended up in first Miami and New York, principally. Some of them went to Canada, Toronto, and set up their drugs operations.
But the Jamaican gangsters soon discovered they weren't welcome in their new home.
Federal agents conduct simultaneous raids in Boston, Miami, Dallas, and 11 other cities. Their targets, Jamaican drug gangs called posses because of their penchant for Wild West-type shootouts.
The American authorities pursued the Yardies relentlessly for 5 years.
The American law enforcement caught on to the posses and things started pursuing a policy to take them out. Then they would increasingly come to Britain to get away from that, and they would start to see Britain as a market for crack cocaine.
Crack was the drug which had swept through the American ghettos with devastating effect.
Yardies were the people who imported the cocaine, turned it into crack and sold it on the streets. They back this up with a willingness to use violence and guns.
Some of these guys got loads of money, but they're very, very dangerous men. You know, they carry all sort of weapons, automatic handguns. You can get anything they want. They are very dangerous because they're always prepared to use it. Go to a dance, anyone wearing anything of value, take it from them if they like it, and it's all done at gunpoint.
One thing that the Yardies had shown in America was their ruthlessness and readiness to resort to weapons, and now they were about to hit the streets of Britain. December 1988, Acton, West London, and the first real evidence that the Yardies had arrived in this country. Ambushed by flying squad officers, the 5 men who held up this post office responded with awesome firepower. They shot back with at least 3 different automatic weapons. This was a frightening new development for police officers more accustomed to dealing with a robber and his shotgun.
This unbelievable violence, which had really started, I suppose, 87, 88, and was growing and growing, it was just completely beyond our experience. I mean, people don't realise that there were more people being shot dead at that period of our history, and still are to this day, with weapons, with firearms, than ever were killed in the heyday of the Crays and the Frasers and the Richardsons and all these sort of infamous gangsters of the 60s.
This confidential Metropolitan Police report details a shooting in August 1988. It clearly reveals senior officers' concerns about the indiscriminate use of guns by Yardie gangs.
This was a shootout of a kind totally alien to the United Kingdom. Other than in terrorist offences, seldom have we witnessed the use of firearms by criminals in this way. In the months that have followed, we have begun to notice a much greater willingness amongst the Jamaican drug dealers to settle disputes with the gun.
There were more people being killed on the streets of London than I believe were ever killed in the Wild West in the 19th century. It was the most dreadful situation, and it went largely unnoticed by the general public because the people concerned in these shootings, both the shooters and the shot at, tended to be Jamaican drug dealers.